If you could cover what a thermal fuse sort of does and when we might see issues with one.
Gotcha. So any dryer, even a low-end mechanical timer type dryer, is going to have anywhere from 3 to 6 different types of fuses or thermistors, thermostats, high-limit thermals. There's 20 different names and they all essentially do the same thing. When a specific thermal fuse is referred to, what that typically is talking about is on that near that blower wheel assembly, which is connected to the motor, there's a housing that goes around the blower wheel. And on that housing, there's 2 different components. One of them is basically like a temperature sensor, or they'll call that the so yeah, on the housing that holds the blower wheel, there's 2 different components. One is a thermistor, which is basically like the temperature sensor of the dryer. That's what tells it how hot it is, and that's what tells the control when to turn on and off the heating element and regulate the temperature. The other component on the blower housing is the thermal fuse. And so that's basically one of the few different thermal fuse or thermal cutoffs that's a safety protect device. So if it gets too hot, it'll blow the fuse instead of catching something on fire. One of the main symptoms that you know a thermal fuse is bad is the drum won't turn. And so you may start your dryer, close the door, hit the start button, and everything indicates it should be working. You know, maybe the timer's moving, maybe there's a countdown on the display, but nothing's happening. And a lot of times it's the thermal fuse, because that thermal fuse is actually what also cuts off power to the motor that turns the drum. And so that's usually the best indication your thermal fuse is bad or your belt is bad. That's basically the purpose of a thermal fuse and the symptom if it's bad.
Gotcha, yeah. Super interesting. It's sort of the, just cuts everything off.
It's really funny because on most dryers, on the heating element is in a housing. On the housing of the heating element is another thermal fuse and another thermal cutoff, which essentially they do the same thing, but when those go bad, your drum will still turn, you just won't get any heat. So if the symptom is, my dryer's not heating at all, it's, completely cold, it's not drying anything, then it's either the heating element or it's one of those 2 components on the heating element housing. In most cases, especially in like your Samsungs, your LGs, when you go to order the heating element, you'll notice that the entire housing with the fuses are about the same price as the heating element itself. And so it's definitely always recommended to get the whole housing with the fuses.